It started the summer after I moved into my first house alone. The neighborhood was quiet, a few miles outside town. Old maples, long driveways, motion lights everyone swore worked fine until they didn't. The first week, nothing happened. Just the hum of insects, the smell of grass after rain, the ordinary silence you only notice when you're trying to sleep. Then one night, around 2 a.m., I heard tires on gravel. I looked through the blinds. A car idled at the end of my driveway. No headlights, just that dull glow from the dashboard. I remember thinking maybe they were lost. After a minute, the engine turned off. They didn't get out. They just sat there. 10 minutes went by, then 20. I told myself it was fine, that they'd leave. But curiosity won. I lifted my phone, zoomed in through the blinds. The silhouette in the driver's seat was completely still, hands on the wheel, head turned toward the house. That was the first night. The next evening, I got home from work around sunset. There were tire tracks in the gravel again. Same pattern. Pulled in, stopped halfway, backed out. I checked the doorbell camera. Nothing. My motion sensor had glitched sometime in the night. I went to bed uneasy. At 3 a.m., my phone buzzed. Motion detected, driveway. I opened the feed. The frame was mostly dark, but I could make out the shape of a person standing just beyond the porch light, close enough that I could see their breath fog in the air. Then the video glitched, lines tearing across the screen. When it cleared, the figure was gone. The next morning, I found footprints in the damp dirt. Barefoot. They stopped halfway up the steps, turned around, and disappeared into the gravel. I showed the photo to a neighbor. She frowned. "Funny," she said. "The old guy who owned your house used to talk about that. Said someone used to come up to the porch every few nights. Always barefoot." She laughed like it was an urban legend. I didn't. A few nights later, I was lying on the couch with the TV low when the motion light clicked on again. I froze. The front window caught the glow from outside, and in that reflection I could see the outline of a face, pressed close to the glass, watching in. I turned, heart slamming, but the window was empty. The next morning, my phone had a single new notification. Video saved, 3:17 a.m. The clip showed the same view of my porch. Except halfway through, the camera angled down, like someone had tilted it by hand. The last frame before it cut to black was a close-up of my doormat and the outline of a wet footprint facing the door. That afternoon, I packed a bag and drove to my sister's. She laughed at first, said I was imagining things. But when she went to check my cloud backup, every clip from the week before had been deleted, all but that one. She asked what I thought it meant. I told her the truth. It meant whoever stood outside my house those nights knew exactly how to use my cameras. And that's why I still don't go back after dark. Because every once in a while, when I check the live feed out of habit, the system shows one viewer already connected. Someone else watching the same screen. If you made it this far, subscribe for more true horror stories. There's always someone standing just out of frame. The next few weeks were quiet. Too quiet. The kind that doesn't feel like peace. Just the pause before something else happens. I started parking my car at my sister's and taking rideshares home, so no one could tell when I was there. I even left a light on in the living room to fake company. Every night, I'd open the security app just to see if the feed showed movement. Most nights, nothing. A few raccoons, a storm, the mail truck. Then one night around 4 a.m., I got an alert. Front door, camera offline. Not motion detected. Not per signal. Offline. My stomach sank. The camera only went offline if the power was cut or if someone unplugged it manually. I didn't move. Just sat there in the dark, clutching my phone, watching the minutes crawl by. After 20 minutes, it came back online. The feed showed the porch, calm as always, except the doormat was missing. That was the first thing I ever noticed go missing. Then came the tools from the shed. A pair of shoes I left by the back door. My old jacket, the one I always wore to take out the trash. Small things. Like someone was collecting pieces of me. I told the police. They sent a car to check. The officer walked the perimeter, nodded politely, and said it was probably teenagers. He didn't look convinced. More like he didn't want to admit he was uneasy too. That night, I left my phone recording audio while I slept. When I played it back the next morning, there was one clear sound at 3:12 a.m. A door hinge creaking, followed by 3 slow, deliberate footsteps on the hardwood floor. After that, nothing. I checked every window, every lock. All sealed. but I couldn't shake the feeling that someone had been standing right over me, listening to me breathe. I didn't go back for a week. Stayed at my sister's, worked late, slept light. But the thing about fear, it builds its own gravity. You can't stay orbiting forever. When I finally returned, the house smelled off. Damp, metallic. And there on the kitchen counter was the missing doormat, folded neatly in half, dirt still clinging to the edges. On top of it was a Polaroid photo. It showed my living room couch, me, asleep under the blanket. And in the background, by the hall doorway, the faint outline of someone else, standing. I don't remember the next few minutes clearly. I think I screamed, maybe dropped the photo. I just remember running out the front door, calling 911, my voice shaking too hard to explain. When the police came, they searched the house from attic to crawl space. Nothing. No footprints, no fingerprints, no sign of forced entry. They suggested I move again. So I did. Different city, different locks, new cameras. But sometimes, when I'm scrolling late at night, I'll catch a flicker in the live feed. A half-second of static. A shadow where there shouldn't be one. And I'll hear it. That same creak, slow and familiar, like a hinge remembering an old weight. If you're still listening, hit subscribe for more true horror stories. Because some houses don't forget the people who fear them. Months later, I convinced myself it was over. Different house, new neighborhood, motion lights bright enough to wake the dead. I even started sleeping through the night again. Mostly. Then came winter. Snow fell heavy that week, thick enough to bury everything but the roof lines. One morning, I woke to silence. No birds, no wind, just that muffled kind of quiet you only get after a storm. I walked to the front window with my coffee and froze. There were footprints in the snow. A single set, leading from the street up to my porch. But there weren't any going back. I called the cops again. They checked around, said it must have been delivery tracks, or maybe a meter reader. Except I didn't have any deliveries. And the meter was behind the house. That night, I left the lights on again. Every one of them. I wanted the house to look watched, lived in loud. Around 1:45 a.m., the hallway light flickered, then shut off completely. I opened the security feed. All cameras were still online, but every one of them showed static. White noise, flickering lines, no image. I switched through each camera, hard hammering. And then, for a fraction of a second, one of the screens cleared. The living room. The camera angle was wrong. It wasn't facing the door anymore. It was tilted upward, as if someone was holding it, slowly panning toward the ceiling. The feed froze right before it reached the corner where the vent was. When it cleared again, the lens was pointed straight down at me. The timestamp read 1:47 a.m. But I was sitting on the couch in that same moment, watching it happen. I stood up, phone still in hand, whispering to nobody, "Who's in here?" The house didn't answer. Just the quiet creak of a vent cover shifting slightly overhead. I didn't wait. I ran out barefoot into the snow, down the driveway, into the street where the lamppost still hummed faintly through the cold. The police came again. The attic was empty. The vents were clear. Every window was locked from the inside, except the one in the guest room. Unlatched, just slightly, enough for a hand to slip through. I sold the house after that. Lost money, didn't care. The new place has no cameras, no motion lights, no feeds. I told myself if something wanted to watch, it could do it in the dark. But last week, an envelope showed up at my door. No return address. Inside was a single Polaroid photo. Me again, sleeping, different bed, same blanket. And in the corner of the frame, reflected faintly in the window, the same figure, blurred, but smiling this time. If you're still awake, hit subscribe for more true horror stories. Because sometimes the story doesn't end when you move